Warning.
Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to Revolutionary Wealth Builders on 7 Mile Radio. I'm your host, Emmett, and today we have a special broadcast for you guys. Today is Wednesday, May 25th, and we are typically streaming live with this podcast on Thursdays. I won't be available tomorrow, so we wanted to make certain that we wanted to make sure that we brought you a high quality show today. So we're going to record today on Wednesday, and feel free to just watch it tomorrow at 11 a.m. if you're in a rhythm with us. So today's show is going to be a little lighthearted. Like I said earlier on my live, my goal today is to be, I do not want to be invasive. I don't want to be abrasive. I want to speak what I have to speak to the women in love. And it's not necessarily just geared toward the women, because we have fathers that will be raising daughters, and we have men who want to be married as well. But the name of today's show is Why Aren't You Married? And we're going to talk about there's one major roadblock, in my opinion, that disallows women to at 35 or older to transition into marriage relatively seamlessly. But then there's a couple of others. So let's look at it as one idea or one thesis with a number of other branches that are going to go along with it. So let's make sure. Let's make sure we listen with an open mind. Let's make sure that we keep the lines of communication open, and we keep this respectful, because it's definitely all in love. I meditated on this last night. I thought about it last night, and I felt like today was the day to have this conversation again. We've had it before on other shows, but today is the day that we need to revisit this, because I think there are some strategies missing for the women specifically who want to be married. Now, some women don't want to be married, and that's fine. Be happy. But if you want to be married and you are finding it a struggle, finding a struggle to meet a man that is compatible with you, that aligns with your beliefs, your position in life, and where you are, then this might be the conversation that you need to tap into. So peace to the producer. What's going on with you, Mark? How you doing?
Man, grinding, man. Just keeping this boat floating, man, and just keeping everything busy. You see, we had the traffic jam this past weekend.
Absolutely.
That was real successful, you know what I mean? And, news van is out here on the road, so I'm just looking forward to this summer, man, and just taking this thing to the next level and, reporting news, independent news for the city.
Absolutely,
That's really
man.
what it is.
Yep, I would be remiss if I didn't. I can't state enough how important this medium is for the people. Like, if you're not subscribed and following 7 Mile Radio, you need to today, because we absolutely positively need to control the narrative of our news, of our information, and the things that are important. It's one of the most important components of being a revolutionary, controlling the information that you transmit to the people. And so make sure we keep that in mind. And even supporting 7 Mile Radio makes you a revolutionary.
Most definitely.
We kind of we're divided on what a revolutionary is, but a revolutionary is simply someone who wants to see a new way of doing things for our people. Revolutionary meaning new or neo. And we want to see a new way of doing things. We want to deliver new information. We want to control the narrative in our communities and the information that we are sharing with one another. We want to be in complete and total control of how we communicate with one another without it being synthesized or tainted by any other individuals with agendas to control or slow down our progress as it relates to what we want for ourselves, self-determination.
Because we know that that's what majority of the mainstream corporate terrestrial news outlets do. That's what they're in business to do.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get busy. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, and if a lot of you don't know me, I've been married for almost a decade and a half. My mother was in a long-term relationship with a good provider. He was a good man. He had his issues and challenges. My youngest sister is married. My oldest sister has been married. My middle sister has been married twice. My other middle sister has been married once. And I have one sister who hasn't been married. And so I've seen marriage consistently as a
different
theme.
stages.
Exactly. Different variations of it. And I'm not to mention all my friends and families and
Right,
neighbors, and then also being the executive director of an agency that services black boys. One of the most important things we discuss is becoming a man who can protect
Right.
and provide and be a pillar in the community. But also, when we are working with the families, we're working with single mothers typically. And so we're seeing all of these ideals in real time play themselves out. A lot of the moms are single. Some of them are in strong relationships but are not married. Some of them are married. But the reoccurring theme typically is the young boys that come to my group, dad is not active in programming, picking him up, dropping him off, calling me, contacting me, being the individual that's telling me about his grades. Sometimes I have to go to the schools with the boys, get them back in school. Sometimes I have to advocate on their behalf in court. Sometimes I have to meet with their therapist with them. Sometimes I have to meet at that family's home as it relates to an intervention. Right. So I'm all in the family matrix. Right, I'm all within the matrix. And so I'm seeing consistently women
certain patterns.
Exactly, patterns as to women being single and struggling to raise these children, so forth and so on.
So you say all that to say that you have a plausible enough observation of it all. You know,
exactly.
I've
gathered enough data.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I've gathered a lot of data in this area.
Right.
Yep. And so I'm just going to share my thoughts. So let's get busy. So when women are young, when they are young girls, they have an expectation of what marriage is going to look like. Typically, that expectation involves love, it involves children, it involves kissing, hugging, touching. It involves a myriad of things. The younger you are, the less likely you are to consider building a business with your husband, building a 401 a trust fund with your husband, wills, and the things that are more in tune with building something, buying your home. You might imagine a home with a white picket fence, but you're not thinking about his credit score, your credit score, the business of being married, and the business of relieving stress for one another on a daily basis. You are not thinking about your spiritual relationship with your husband when you're 20 years old. You are not thinking about how his size and how you are biologically compatible when you make a child. What will that child look like? Does your husband have sickle cell traits in his family? Biologically, do you want your son to be tall? If you are a woman who is 5'9" and you marry a guy that's 5'3", your child may end up being 5'7" as an adult male. But if you are a woman and you are 5'9" and you decide to marry a man 6'6", your son may end up being 6'11". It creates other opportunities for him. These are none of the things we talk about with our daughters and with our children. But these are the things that I discuss with my daughters. I tell my daughters that it is good for a man to love you, but you want a man who is willing to sacrifice for you. Love is a very interesting thing. It is a very interesting emotion. It is more action driven than it is anything else. But ultimately, the most important thing that I try to get my daughters to understand is that a man, in order to be marriage material, he must sacrifice. And that's for our younger girls. So with all of that being said, there's a package of things that a 21, 22, 24, 25-year-old young lady typically will not consider. And so if we don't marry young, as we get older and we date into our 30s, date into our 40s, the ideal of our expectation of what marriage looked like typically doesn't change because it began when we were a young girl. And in addition to that, it actually developed and morphed from our position as a young lady. And because we never married, the ideal never changed. Now, if you were to marry and then you decide that you wanted to remarry for whatever reason later on in life, you are more likely to have a different mindset as it relates to the expectations of marriage. So let me break all this down. When you're 20, you're falling in love, and you are more likely at 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 to get married and sustain a marriage because of the circumstances in which you are getting married. And now there is some data that suggests that marriages that began before you're 28 years old typically last. Marriages between 28 and 35, they have a higher rate of failure. And then marriages beyond 35 have even a higher rate of failure. And I'm going to explain to you why this is. And now we're just talking about the rate of failure of the marriage, but there are some other ideas that are synonymous with this same data. So let's talk about it from this perspective. When you're young, you grow together and you fall in love. You make your mistakes together. You grow up together as an adult. You typically will have children together younger, and you have what they call the tie that binds, the emotional investment in the relationship, the understanding of being used to this individual, growing with this individual, and building your baggage together. So the baggage that is in the marriage was developed between one another. So the woman knows the baggage back and forth, up and down, and vice versa with the man. And so your baggage, your idiosyncrasies, your craziness, you slow, you don't like to do this, you don't pick up after yourself. All of these things have been recognized over years and years of time, and they have become a part of the relationship, and they have become accepted. And so this is a circumstance where the man and the woman are loving each other despite these other challenges and issues as a young couple.
Unconditionally, as they call it.
Exactly, because they've grown into these things together. If you decide to marry at 40 and you've dated 72 other men and you slept with 47 of them, you are bringing spiritual baggage, you are bringing emotional baggage, because there is a strong relationship between tapping into a woman sexually and tapping into her emotions and her emotional experiences. And you are bringing all of that, all of the baggage, into the new relationship with a 40-year-old man if you've never been married, and then bringing all of that other baggage and those other things, which he's bringing baggage as well. But you're bringing all of this baggage and all of these different experiences, sexual and otherwise, all of the giving of yourself to other men, all of the frustrations, the trauma, the being fired from your job 3 times, the experience where a guy left you at the altar, the experience where the guy cheated on you with your best friend. All of these things you bring into this 40-year-old this 40-year-old situation where you're 40 and he's 43. But you have the same 20-year-old mindset and expectation of marriage. You want to fall in love with him, and you want him to sweep you off of your feet, and you want to feel covered in a way in which a 20-year-old, 22, 24-year-old woman would give herself to a man, and then that man would see her as a individual that does not own the baggage that the 40-year-old woman owns, because they're both 24 years old. And he is more likely to see her as his number one first love, and the person that he wants to spend the rest of his life with, because at that age, it is more likely that you grow together and there is less baggage and less of a trail of residue, and you can learn and make mistakes in life together. And so at 40, what is the mindset? The mindset is, if I've never been married, I want the white dress, I want the big marriage, I want the cake, I want the husband that is handsome with no children or a child, or I want him to have the least amount of problems. I want him to have no baggage. I want him to be in excellent physical shape. I want him to be handsome. I want him to have a good job, so forth and so on. But the reality of the situation is this: the expectations that we have at 20 and our end game for marriage cannot be the same at 40.
It don't fit the same. It don't fit the person that you are at 40.
The criteria must change. And let me swerve real quick so I can come back to the mindset. The goals of marriage at 40 should be different than the goals at 20. The goal at 20 is to fall in love, learn life, travel, have fun, have your first kid together, grow up, support each other on the first job, buy the first house, so forth and so on. At 40, it should be how can we build something together over the next 40 years that allows us to enjoy each other and enjoy our lives experiences as we shared them and shared the history of who we were before we knew each other and who we want to be together as a union. I always say if you're not building together, you have no business being together. So the romanticized version of marriage fits a 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27-year-old couple more than it ever could a 44-year-old couple. And if the mindset is that of someone who is 20 years old, 25 years old, meaning they're still living in the romanticized version of what a marriage is going to look like, then they are going to be looking for some things that are probably not going to be available in a man for them. And I think that's where it starts. And so this is the perfect time to kind of explore the definition of marriage.
You break down stuff with very clearly, man, for people. Go ahead. I don't stop you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So 7 Mile. Oh, so yeah, you.
Yeah, that was the shell. That was Shell. Like I'm actually trying to change her from being so she won't do that right now. But that's her comment in that 7 Mile Radio. She said, before I get into my line of question, that we're saying young men at that age consider these things.
Right. So men absolutely don't consider those things. But what a man does consider when he is young, I'm gonna tell. So now let me step outside of this, and right after I finish this comment, good brother, let's pull up that
graphic.
Let's pull up that graphic. And so this is what men do consider. I'm going to explain to you exactly what men consider. Men, when they are young, they want to have the pride of knowing that the woman that they are dealing with is as untouched as she can be. That's number one priority. Is she physically attractive to him? That is also a priority. And then the other thing is, how does she make me feel about myself? That is what a young man is looking at. Those are his important things. How many bodies does she have? How close is she a virgin, or is she as close to a virgin as possible? That is your number one value as a woman. Having the least amount of bodies. I'm going to tell you as a man, the least amount of bodies you have, the more likely, the more valuable you become to a man. And before any woman says that a man has no idea of how many bodies you have, we are spiritually connected human beings. We have a spiritual connection and relationship with one another that have biorhythms. A man has an idea based on how you talk, how you describe things, how your personality, as if you are very experienced with having a multitude of bodies under your belt. I'm going to share something with you in my private thoughts, in my private mind. I never have wanted, I'm a married man, I never have wanted to be involved in any woman who has slept with a lot of men. I do not want to touch her, period. I do not want to touch any woman that anybody can hit. I do not want to touch any woman that I believe, if I know a man that slept with her, if I believe he is not a quality, a caliber of man that I am, I will not touch her. If you are sleeping with bums, I will not touch you. Period. We cannot be in a relationship together.
I feel you.
Unless this is the only and one caveat. You go through a spiritual transformation where you have come to a conclusion and an awakening that you are becoming someone different, and that is the work you are doing on yourself in that area. So just to be clear, men are very in tune with the amount of men that a woman sleeps with. And when a man is young, that is one of his number one priorities. Go back and listen to the interview with Lil Baby. He said, "Yeah, man, I love her, dog." He was talking to the dudes on $1 Million Game, Wallow and Gilly the Kid. He was talking to Wallow and Gilly the Kid. And the number. Oh, okay. Technical difficulty. Give us a second. Yep. The number one thing that Lil Baby said as to why he was getting ready to wife the young lady he was getting ready to wife, he said, "Yeah, man, she got my back. And she ain't got all them bodies up under her belt, you feel me? She ain't got all them dudes, you feel me?" And so, boom, He said it exactly there. How old is little baby? About 26?
Yep.
You feel me? And so he is right in that age in which we're describing. So a lot of women, have a lot of sexual experiences. And one of the responses to this position is going to be, well, what about men? Men have a lot of sexual experiences, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But here's the reality of the situation. A woman has to make a determination for herself. I explained to you my position and the position of men. A woman has to establish her position. And typically in our society, that is not a deal breaker that a man has a lot of physical relationships with other women for most women. For some women, that may be the case, but by and large, socially, that is not the deal breaker. But for men, that typically is the deal breaker for a man to wife her. A man does not want to be walking around holding hands, and everybody that he bumps into has smashed the woman he's holding hands with. That does not work for any man who has any form modicum of self-respect for himself. So let's reverse and go back to where we were having this conversation, where this conversation began. It began with the mindset of the woman. Typically, as a woman gets older, she never changes her mindset as it relates to what marriage needs to look like. When she is from being in her early 20s to going into her early 40s. So she still has the romanticized version and expectation of marriage when it needs to be adjusted for where she is as a professional, where she is as a mother, where she is as a volunteer in the community, where she is residing in her development as a person. What has her experiences been in relationships over time? And that is the same thing for the man as well. So now you're 40 years old. When you come together, these are some of the questions that you must ask. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Have you experienced any trauma that you want to share today? I don't really care about your 401k and all of that crap, but what you do need to understand is the question should not be, do you have money? The question should be, what is your definition of wealth building? Because if they can give you a true and clear and profound definition of what wealth building is, like let's say they say, it's me making sure I have always at all times $100,000 in the bank. It's me owning my house cash. It's me having a property that creates income so I can use that to do my thing. He has told you enough right now to know that he is never going to be broke just by the definition. So we want to ask, what is your definition of wealth building? What is your definition of wealth? How do you build a relationship? What is your relationship with money? You don't have to ask a person, do you have money, or any of that? Because a person can lie and say, yeah, I have money. You feel me? And so I don't want to be with a man who has or had a lot of bodies. I'm spiritually in tune with myself and pick up on other energies, and I don't want all of that inside or around me. Absolutely. And anyone who is in tune with themselves says it should be on the same tip.
Right.
So healing work, and if we are not building, I have no interest anyway. Absolutely. And that's another thing. There's going to be some trauma. So talk to me about, talk to me about some of the trauma you want to share with me. Because when we start to identify and we tap into the real root of our existence, that's going to be the tie that binds. At 45, we probably not having no children together. So what's going to keep us together in this relationship is us understanding how to treat each other based on where we both have been. So our whole idea of marriage at 42 has to be different than it is at 24. You got to scrap the 24-year-old plan, sis. You not 24. You 42. And it doesn't mean you can't be married. It just means you have to change your ideal of what this marriage is going to look like. If you're not building together, you have no business being together. What are you going to lean on when you mad at each other? See, typically young couples have the children. He need his diaper changed, huh? Or we need to get formula. Or we got to take him to the doctor. Or we got to be at baseball practice. We have things in common that we have to do to keep the family going. So we have to communicate. We have to figure it out. We have to be together. We have to do these things. But at 42, what are going to be the ties that bind? It can be your life experiences. It can be what your goals are for your future. If you both have the same goals, building wealth, okay, let's start buying houses together. Okay, let's buy a house together. Okay, let's start a business together. Okay, and so now y'all open up a restaurant together, his and hers cuisine. And so now y'all have something that y'all gotta work on together. Y'all build it together, y'all accomplish together, y'all falling in love because y'all successful together.
Right.
That's y'all baby. You gotta build different when you 42, 43. All of this nonsense about, yeah, girl, he couldn't he yeah, girl, he you know he got a little he got a little spot off the water, you know, yeah. Yeah, he taking other girls to that spot off the water too. That shouldn't be what attracts you to him. You feel me? You have to
Don't
choose
get attached to that superficial shit that could be gone tomorrow. That's like,
exactly. And you got to really know for sure that you guys are moving in a specific direction. Don't have expectations, sis, until you really start to talk about it man to woman. Don't assume anything because you let him hit. Just because you let him hit, he owes you nothing. That was your both of your consensual agreement to smash. And so the relationship doesn't accelerate because y'all smash. The relationship accelerates because you agree that it accelerates. Be clear on where you're at in the relationship. Mark,
hold that thought. What's going on, caller? Who's this and where you calling from?
Oh, good afternoon, Kings. How are you?
What's going on, Keisha?
peace, sis. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Big Bro. Thank you so much for calling in. Mark, if you'll put that call-in number up just on GP every time.
But no, I want to no. See, the thing about it is, like, you got to get the conversation out first. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, the reason why you wanted me to put the call-in line up is because we entice that conversation out of you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't want to throw it up in the beginning because people will call in and say, all right, well, what are we talking about? We don't want you to call in for that. But now that the time to call in, we put the number up.
Absolutely.
So go ahead with your question, sister.
Okay, now what I was saying is, and if it is possible, I don't want to hold the line, but I would like to have the conversation while Big Bro is having the conversation.
Yeah, go ahead.
So far, what I'm hearing as far as what it is, it's almost what's good for the goose is almost is as good for the gander. Every point so far that has been made, like while I'm sitting here and I'm okay. So this is the main reason I don't feel men should suggest women as far as what they need to do in reference to being a good wife or why you aren't married. Or I don't get me wrong, and I don't mean like a man doesn't have that experience from other women and what he knows that he wants from a woman, but the same things that are being described right now as maybe highlights or, things that women should look into in reference to being prepared for marriage are kind of the same thing I would, I'm just awaiting to hear the differences of men.
Okay.
If you will.
I have
what I'm
I
saying?
have it for you. Yep, I have it for you.
So I got you. And so for, like, say, example, the bodies, no, like to have a man in the streets and this man has bodies, you better run. Yeah, I mean, the majority of women do think that way. You know what I'm saying? When it was said that women don't pretty much care about, oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. You better stay away from someone because 9 times out of 10, a man with, and then same for women, have lingering bodies when he has a lot of bodies. You see what I'm saying? So some of those bodies, 9 times out of 10, may be lingering, especially depending on that man's financial status.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Says the data doesn't suggest that a men being with multiple partners is a deal breaker for women. In none of the data, in none of the social experiments, has that ever been a challenge. Has that ever been up for debate? Like it just hasn't. But I know specifically you, with the high caliber and high value person that you are, I know that would be your position. But typically that's not the position. And now the reason why this discussion is geared towards women is, I'm going to tell you something, sis. Historically, men don't care to be married, not to the extent that women do. The reason why it's geared towards women is because what men don't understand the value of being married to a good woman. It takes a long time for a man to get to that place, to understand that it keeps you healthy, it keeps you wealthy, it keeps you covered, it keeps you spiritually in tune. It's a protection mechanism. While the man protects the family, in reality, I always teach my boys that the family protects the man. The family protects a
I
man.
agree.
A man
Yeah,
doesn't.
I agree.
It's very
I agree.
difficult for young men to really understand this. Men
Yeah.
typically are slower to recognize marriage as being a valuable commodity for what they are trying to do.
Hmm.
But I'm getting ready to
Okay.
draw, and I don't disagree with anything that you said, sis. Everything you
Hmm.
said are valid points.
Uh huh.
I'm using the information and data that I have available.
I got you. Got
Women
you. Oh,
should run from men who are irresponsible sexually.
yeah.
They should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but you made a point, especially when they are based on their financial status. It gets
Yeah.
to a point where if a man got paper,
Yeah.
he's still gonna have his choice of very qualified women. He's just
Yeah.
going to, and
Yeah.
regardless
No
of
matter what
what
kind of
he's
person
done,
he is.
exactly. So,
Mm.
yep. And I hate to say that, but that's typical. We know some relationships, and we've actually seen it play out in front of our eyes in a multitude of mediums of men who are able to do a lot of things in a relationship that should be deemed socially unacceptable just because they are financially positioned they're in a strong place financially.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I so I
Yeah.
so yeah, so I agree with that.
And I'm going to say this and then I'll clear the line.
Hmm.
The only other thing I disagree with, too, that I've heard so far is the reason that you come together when you're older in your 40s for the reason of marriage.
Hmm.
I even disagree, Big Bro, for the aspect of business.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well,
there
that's
are
not the
there's
only
a lot of
aspect.
data. No, no, no. I got you. I got, but I'm just referring to the one you use
Hmm.
for like businesses, and that becomes your baby.
Yep.
That has also been a great contributor to divorce. Owning a business together, we begin to disagree on how the business should run. If the business is struck financially, and
Hmm.
we're not kind of mentally prepared to deal with each other and support each other in that aspect of a financial downfall of our baby.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? We're disagreeing on the things that we need to do to get our baby back healthy, to nurture our baby in the right way, even disagreeing on some things as small as the staff
Hmm.
who may be contributing to the downplay or, the prevention of the financial increase on the business, which is why we created our baby.
Hmm.
I
Absolutely.
feel when you're older, the connection of marriage definitely be, or a high percentage of why you guys are together are from the past experiences. You see what I'm saying? From the past hurts, the past pains. And for two people who are of age now, they're done with all of that nonsense and they just want to be involved with someone that has dealt with the same thing, who has experienced the same levels of hurt, and just want to give each other the kind of love they've always wanted. Now, I believe starting there as the root reason of why we're together and getting married actually allows you to venture into other aspects of bonding the marriage. But when those other aspects become troubling, I think the root of why we're together is what causes us to work through, the disparities that may come from other things that we're doing together in the relationship. I think it's the true love that binds, that works through all of the other things that you may try to create from being older in marriage and, causing you guys to have other reasons for indulging and having interest in each other, if that makes sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense, and I'm glad you said that. I completely and 100% agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for one thing, I want to throw that diagram up real quick. I want to throw that
Okay.
diagram up real quick, and I want you to stay on, sis, because this
Oh, you
kind of
want me to stay on?
yep, because
Okay. Okay.
this is gonna lead into the next discussion. So let's take a look
Okay.
at these. I'm gonna share with you my position on where I was coming from with what I said, and what
Okay.
you just expressed is absolute is the precursor to what I was kind of alluding to before I got to the business part. And
Okay.
so marriage. So the definition of marriage is the legally and formally recognized union of two people as partners in a personal relationship, historically and in some jurisdictions, specifically a union between a man and a woman, so forth and so on. And so I'm not going to get into the different types of marriages based on gender and alternative lifestyles because that's not where I'm at
Yeah.
with it. However,
Yeah.
the other definition that we found was marriage, a legally and socially sanctioned union, usually between a man and a woman that is regulated by laws, rules, customs, beliefs, attitudes that prescribe the rights and duties of the partners and accords status to their offspring, if any. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about both of those. None
Okay.
of them say anything about love. None of them say
Okay.
anything about a romantic endeavor where two people walk into the sunset. It doesn't say any of those things. We're talking about marriage in America and the version of marriage in America that most people follow. My
Okay.
version of marriage has nothing to do with those two definitions, but I'm
Okay.
speaking from those two versions of the definition
Got
because that
okay.
is
I
what
got
most people are going to recognize. I'm on something completely
it.
different. I'm on something
Yeah.
so completely different as it relates to marriage that I wouldn't even talk about my what I see marriage as in too much in public.
Like, yeah, that's the same thing
Because it
for me
applies
too.
to you
That
and
is
your
not
marriage, right?
Exactly.
And all that's
Yeah.
gonna do is
Yeah.
allow people, give them an avenue to attack that, right? And they're gonna
Exactly.
apply
So
their terms and conditions on for their shit to your life,
exactly. So
and it don't fit.
Like,
yeah. So when I talk about my marriage specifically, I only talk about my marriage specifically with my wife. You see what I'm saying?
okay.
Because
Yeah.
because people like the things that I've experienced, fought through, grinded through, and vice versa. And I never like to have this discussion because it's unfair. She has to always be included in that conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
Slide to the right a little bit. So
yep. Oh, my bad. There are some powerful things that have taken place that are unexplainable to the average person. They would never understand it. So it's I can't
Yeah.
even. And so marriage to me is
And
something
it's the
completely.
same for me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
the same for me too.
Absolutely.
The
And
kind of marriage I had
mhm.
would 9 times out of 10 I would agree would be foreign,
Yep.
most likely
Yep.
to some.
Yep.
It would be foreign. It would
Mhm.
be foreign.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so at the age where if you've never been married and you move
Mhm.
into this space where you now decided that it is time to settle down, it is going to be a rarity that the relationship is built on falling in love and being romantically charged. It's going to be rare.
Okay.
You're going to love them.
Okay.
You're going to love some
Okay.
things about them. You're going to love the way they make you feel. But we have to
Mhm.
examine what falling in love means. In my mind, my definition of falling in love means that it is you are operating from a blind level of ignorance. You are making decisions based on being blinded by a set of emotions that will
Yeah.
fade. You will not
Yeah.
stay in love with someone at every moment of the relationship.
That's
Women will
true.
put a backpack full of drugs in a trunk of their car and drive them to Atlanta because they in love with a dude.
Yeah.
A man will start doing drugs with a girl because he's in love with her. Falling in
Mhm.
love will make you make some of the stupidest decisions, some of the
Yeah.
most self-destructive decisions you could ever make in your life. If
Yeah.
falling in love is in the equation of the relationship, I would wager that the relationship, if not built on something else, is going to figure out a way to crash and burn at some point. So,
Mhm.
falling in love in your early 40s, that is not the goal or shouldn't be the goal. We want to
Gotcha.
love the person. Love is a choice. It is a action. It is a decision. I want to, with a clear mind and body and sound mind and heart, make the decision that I love this person
There you go.
because of the attributes that I experience with this
Not
person.
because of the emotion that has overtaken me and caused me to feel this thing superficially, because this is what I feel.
Exactly. I want to choose to love this person. If I fall in love, that's like me falling in a damn ditch, in my opinion.
I got
I'm
you.
not falling anywhere.
And the question I pose to that is, as far as it's being proven, the maturity level between men and women maturing first.
Right.
Even if younger, you can have maybe a 35-year-old woman who would be more mature than a 40-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see what in some aspects. So
Absolutely.
when it comes to the thought process of the man, and I'm asking you, big bro, I'm not saying I know, when it comes to the thought process of that man, at what age do you really think that a man begins to think that way about women? Do you think it's by the age of 35?
It
You know what?
depends.
Well, you know what? Let me say this. I knew in my 20s that I was going to get married around 32.
Okay.
I knew already everything that was my plan the whole time. Marriage was important to me. Building a family
Uh-huh.
was important to me. Having a building a
Hmm.
legacy was important to me, even when I was in the streets and in my 20s. And so I knew I
Okay.
would get married around between 32 and 34. It was already in the plans for me. But
Exactly. And
but
for
but
you, big bro, that's different. Like you said, it's for me. It's that's different as far as us being the people that we are and the way
right.
that we think. And now, don't get me wrong. And for those who are listening, I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying, or even that you're saying,
Mhm.
or we think different from people. So we don't. I mean, no.
Right.
It just, it gives us a better viewpoint to be
Exactly.
kind of versatile because we understand both aspects of it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Now
But
let me
the
tell you. Well, let me say this. Says here are some of the mechanisms that trigger a man's thought pattern as to maybe I need to settle down.
okay.
Number one, he starts to make a lot of money, and he starts to realize that the money is not making him happy. That's one
Okay.
perspective.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Number two, he works really hard at his job, and he's starting to realize that his life is not as organized as he would like for it to be.
Okay.
Another way that a man can see this, he dates a lot of women, and it's starting to become spiritually draining to him, and he's starting to feel unfulfilled. These
Okay.
are these are
I
some
agree.
of the mechanisms that trigger a man's thought pattern that I need to be married. I
Okay.
need to be married. And I don't know what age those things happen for a
Okay.
lot of people.
I got
So it
you.
may not be age, it may be some other things. But those are some of the mechanisms, especially in conversation with men that I've had.
Okay.
They are starting to
Okay.
become accomplished, and they want to share some things with people, and they're tired of dating this. Oh, like I'm gonna tell you the day a man really realized something ain't right. He wakes up
Okay.
next to somebody and he was like, "Why did I do that last night?" That conversation I've had with dudes often because I have
Mhm.
conversations with men, counseling conversations. A lot of my mentees are grown men. You feel me? And so he'll
Yeah.
say, "Man, and when I woke up, I was like, ugh, why did I even do that? I got to get my ish together."
Yeah.
That be the
Yeah.
turning point. And so it's typically an experience or a mindset or a form of a part of their evolution. And we just
Hmm.
don't know what age that is
Yeah,
for
there
a
is no.
lot of
That's
men.
why when she asked the question, I'm like, there's no certain age for that. That's like, applying the terms and conditions to making a blanket statement, right? You can't. It don't apply to everybody at the same time.
Right. And see, what made me say that too was in reference to the topic being specific to an age for a woman.
Right. Exactly.
You
Right.
Well,
see,
we
it
Okay.
want
said
to we
35
don't
and
want her to run
older.
out. Yeah, we don't want to
Right.
want her to run out of time.
she, she, I guess that was funny to it.
You said the you're singing, huh? Okay, I'm sorry,
No,
y'all.
you
Okay,
good. You
I
good.
just but and what I was saying, and then that's what made me use the reference of the age of a woman who's 35 being more mature than a woman who, I mean, a man who may be 40.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like when you choose a specific age range for a woman, and specifically being a, again, associating that with the fact that women mature older, I mean, quicker. So again, you may get a 35-year-old woman involved with a 40-year-old man who's really 25. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
when there was an age preference for the woman, so you guys are saying like biological clocks
And
and things
absolutely.
like that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yep, I'm hitting on traces of that. Even though, and also we have to remember that as black people in America,
Hmm.
our version of marriage, how we
Hmm.
handle marriage, how we
Hmm.
value marriage must be different than Western civilization in order for our marriages to survive.
Gotcha.
If we try to keep them in line and in tune with
Yeah.
westernized values, the
Yeah.
marriage could fail us. It can fail
Yeah.
us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
And
I
I'm not
agree.
even going to get off into that because that's a whole
Whole
nother
nother, yeah, it
show
is.
that
Yes,
we have
it's
to
almost
talk about.
everything we do as a people is the reason we're behind because we're trying to do
Yep.
us
It,
based on a European
yep. And the
move map, if
one of
you
the
will.
ties that bind for black marriage must be staying together for the sake of keeping the entire village together. That has to be at the epicenter of what we're doing, like Samuel L. Jackson's wife. We had to figure out a reason to stay together, and there's nothing more revolutionary than black love.
That is it.
So
that is it. Now,
so
we've always seen eye to eye on that one.
absolutely. And so I'm gonna end this last segment, and it's gonna take us a second to close this thing out. We got about 15 minutes left with this something that I saw on $1 million worth of game. Wallow said, "Respect, respects, respect, and love, love, love." Let's talk about that. That is everything in marriage. I'm gonna keep this very simple.
Yes, it is.
A man interprets being respected by his woman as being loved by his woman. A man wants to be respected in his marriage. Respect, respects, respect. And that is the bottom line. If you don't understand that as a woman, you will not keep your man. You're going to lose him. He's going to leave you. I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose your man. Unless he's a sucker. And if he's a sucker, you cheating on him. Period. You're not gonna he's not gonna be your primary, he's not going to be your primary way of getting what you need out of a man. Period.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And if you are the type of woman who cheats, you'll reflect on him as a weakness.
Yep.
Almost a little boy almost.
Yep.
And all it takes is someone with a really deep male dominant energy, and he has you.
Yeah, but he's gonna tighten you right up.
You don't have that at home.
Yeah, but he's gonna tighten you right up, and it's gonna be that easy.
That's it.
And so, but we're not gonna talk about, I don't wanna really talk about the indiscretions, but I just had to say that. But I'm gonna say this. If you are married and you want to keep your husband, you need to understand this single line: respect, respects, respect. Whatever you need from him, respect, respects, respect. What you need him to do, respect, respects, respect. If you need him to wash the car, respect, respects, respect. If you need him to give you some money for a bag, respect, respects, respect. Period. Whatever you need from him, if you respectfully talk to him about it, approach it, and you got a man with common sense, you will be good in your marriage. A man will never leave a good woman if she respects him. He will not do it. Because even if the man is not even mature enough to understand that he is being respected and afforded the utmost respect, he is going to stay because it is something about this marriage that makes him feel like a man. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I feel like a man here. And so why would I go anywhere else? For women,
that is it.
For men,
that is it.
If you may be able to keep your woman, but to keep your woman's attention and keep her engaged in you, where you don't have to worry about extracurricular activity, love loves love. Yeah. That is exactly what she needs. She needs to feel loved. She needs to be told she's loved. She needs to look like she's loved. She needs to be loved in front of your kids. She needs to be loved. She needs to be given gifts. She wants everything. People talk about love languages. This is my love language. A woman's love language is all of them. You got to do all of them.
Yeah.
Love, loves, love. If you do that, you can literally have a conversation around the table with your man like, I ain't never worried about my woman fucking nobody. Period. It's never going to happen. She's not going to do it because she's not going to risk what I do. You feel me? Now, if you're not taking care of your business, you could be at risk. It may not happen, but you could be at risk. But for men, love loves love. It's and the reason why it's stated that way is because you can't screw it up. Love loves love. Period.
That's true. Yeah.
She piss you off. Loves loves love. She accused you of something that you didn't do. Love loves love. She on your case about going out. Give her a kiss. I'm still going, baby. Love loves love. I will share this with you. If my wife didn't want me to go out, I could do one of few things. I could not go and be frustrated about it. Like, I ain't even going to go. Don't worry about it then. I ain't going. I could do that. That could be my response. And now we both upset. I'm upset in the house. Or I could disregard her feelings and say, whatever, I ain't going. I'm doing what I'm going to do. Or I could kiss her on the cheek and say, I love you. I'm going. I'm going to be good. When I come home, be ready. Number
Yeah.
three is an example of love loves love. You got what you
It is.
wanted, and she's gonna get what
Mm-hmm.
she wanted. You a man, you can
Mm-hmm.
do anything you want to do with your physical feet. If you want to walk your physical feet to the club, then you have the right to do that. No
Yeah.
person has complete and control over anybody else as long as you're being responsible. Now, if burglars came in your house last night and you going out the next night, that's irresponsible. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, if all things being equal, love, love, love. The number three
Yeah.
version of dealing with your wife is an example of love, loving, love. And
Yeah.
that is how you have to understand. And just because as a man you are right or correct does not mean you handle your wife like you would handle a dude in the street.
Yeah. Yeah. And
These are
again, like
things
you said,
I have to learn on. I have to learn. I had to learn. And so this
yeah.
I'm not talking this like I'm an expert. I'm just speaking
Yeah.
from experience and from interaction with some of my people and having male groups and sitting down having counseling sessions and all of these other
Yeah.
things. You feel me? But
Yeah.
don't
And then the
forget.
thing about that
Go
too
ahead.
is as far as the woman's role and responsibility, and then I'm gonna flip it, big bro, in that same uh description of what you just used. It's love, love, love. Also from a woman too towards her man.
Mhm.
And for me, it would be something like if you didn't want him to go out. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And you know that his thing is going to be I'm going to be good. I just want to go out, babe. I'm just enjoying myself for tonight. I know you don't want me to go, but this is the energy I'm in today. I love you. You know, I'm not going to do anything wrong. And like you said, when I get home, get back. Be ready. But the
Mhm.
reverse side of that kind of psychology happens the same way on a woman's end that would actually cause him to stay in. You
Mhm.
see what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah,
when you see that he's
absolutely.
going out, he's ready to go. And love, love, love. Woman, you look at him, babe, you look really good tonight. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
I'm not trying to hate on you going out, but really just this energy and this vibe you're giving off tonight, babe, I really, really want you to stay home with me. Put your hand on his chest. Put your head on his. I mean, you have to mentally F him,
You can
but
do
at the
some other
same
things
time, let
too,
him
and he
know,
might
you
stay
know,
home. He might fall asleep right on the
they
living
don't know.
room floor.
Like, look, and look, this is the thing, though. And then you tell him, babe, just tonight, can I have your tonight and you go out tomorrow? I mean, you see what I'm saying? But again, what I'm saying is
Mhm.
it's the love, love, love thing. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? Some women have that ability to break down that strongest shell,
Mhm.
but what I'm is, in summed up, big bro, I'm agreeing with you that love, love, love works on both ends in reference attempting to get what you want out of your marriage.
Absolutely. And a man interprets the love from his wife as respect. A
That's
woman
it.
interprets her respect from her husband as love.
That is it.
It's the only way. So she feels respected and held in high regard when he loves on her. He
That is
feels loved and in high regard when she respects him.
That is it. That is it.
And so we done. Our work is done for the day. I hope somebody got some value out of this. I hope you guys tune in next Thursday at 11 a.m. to the Revolutionary Wealth Builders over here on 7 Mile Radio, where we bring wealth education to the people. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel over on YouTube, the Revolutionary Wealth Builders. I always like to thank my good brother Mike, the super producer, that puts all of this together for us to exchange all of this powerful information. We can't forget that. And I want to thank Sis for popping in and tune in to her podcast. It's from 1 to 3 now, right?
Yeah, on
It is.
Sundays.
One to
Yeah, 2 hour
one to
show.
three, the Making Them Think podcast. Oh,
Yeah.
Yolanda Greer said, "Great show, thank you." You know, we that's what we do over here. We putting in that work. Share this
Yes.
for me. Share this, like, share, and subscribe this to Revolutionary Wealth Builders on um on YouTube. I'm sharing this right now. I'm not gonna write a post, but this was a good one. And the
It,
engagement, we needed
it,
we needed some traces of that good estrogen energy here, that good
yeah.
feminine energy to get
Yeah.
this, bring this show home,
Hmm.
so they would know
Yeah.
that
Make it full
we weren't
circle. Yeah.
discriminating, that this wasn't no bashing.
Yeah, because when he came in with a topic, I'm like, oh, this sounds like a real Kevin Samuels type of a topic here. You know what I mean? But I know this brother has nowhere near the tone and much more respect for women and our people as a
Yeah.
whole than
Yeah.
that brother seemed to project. So I was just really interested in hearing the conversation, and I learned some things. You know what I mean? I learned some things,
I agree,
and it was
Toy Lynn. I was just saying, I
it was
agree with Toy Lynn just said. Absolutely.
confirmation for a lot of things that I've seen and experienced, in dealing with women. So yeah, it was a very insightful conversation,
Right.
as always with Brother Emmett.
I'm gonna share one more thing because this is gonna help men. Toy Lynn just made a statement, so I'm gonna read it. A woman
Mhm.
has no problem respecting a man and caring for him as long as he's handling his business, respecting, providing, loving on her, and protecting her. Trust and communication must be there. Now, let me say this. um, a man's ego can get in the way of being first to do what he needs to do to get what he wants. So a man
Mm.
may say, no, she better do what she has to do before I do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. If you want to make it easier, a man has to learn how to put his ego aside and do what he needs to do first and get what he needs secondary. Somebody has to put their ego aside and be the first
You just
one
spoke about
to
some
get it right.
sacrifice earlier, right?
Exactly. First one to get it right. I'm sharing this because I've been guilty of letting my ego and pride be at the forefront of the interaction in my marriage in times past. You have to sit your ego aside. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm used to being that guy. I'm used to people acquiescing to my demands, my expectations in most situations in my entire life as a young man and as a man. Since I was
Mhm.
18 years old, that's all I've really known. And that is not necessarily the winning formula in a good marriage.
Mhm.
You feel me? And
Mhm.
but if that is your expectation that you get these extras, you have to put your pride aside and give her what she needs to be that person.
I got you.
That's a
And big
fact.
bro.
That's just the
Mm.
way that it is. Even if you a beast like me, you gotta put that beast to sleep most of the time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
summon that beast when it is absolutely necessary outside your home.
That's it. That's it. And you know what? I'm going to make this comment, and after this, Mark, you can disconnect me. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Toy Lynn, I was reading that comment too. It's funny you said that, big bro, because I was going to read it also. And Toy Lynn, I understand exactly what it is that you're coming from. Emmett, you grew up with my husband,
I did. We grew
so
up together. That was my guy for sure.
yeah, and you know, like when Daryl and I find like since Northwestern, we
Hmm.
were friends,
Yep.
but off and on kind of friends. We never touched each other, was never involved. He was my venting avenue for
Hmm.
the relationship that I was in, and I promise you, never did we do anything and never did Daryl downrate the, the kid's dad,
Hmm.
at that time. His input was always, when you get tired, you'll get tired. In the meantime, let's go sit and have a drink, that type of thing. But
Hmm.
the main reason I said that to you is so when Daryl finally came to me and we made this thing official, and you knowing him from childhood, imagine how much more of a woman I had to become to love him out of his childhood trauma.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And in reference to Toy Lynn's comment, that is correct in reference to saying, uh, respecting a man and what he would bring to the table first. I knew that was inside of him.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So what I had to do as the woman who wanted to be involved with him was show him that he could release those things to me because of his childhood past, traumas and things like that.
Hmm.
So Toy Lynn, I agree wholeheartedly in reference to what you're saying, but I do agree with Big Bro in that aspect. A man is going to want to know he can be vulnerable, if you will. Even in protecting, some men see that type of thing as vulnerable because it's something he's doing emotionally to allow himself to feel that way about a woman. Yes,
Absolutely.
I want to protect her. Yes, I want to provide for her. Yes, I want to. So for me, being the woman that I am, and don't get me wrong, I was maturing right along with Daryl, but me knowing the good, pure-hearted person that he was, I knew that I had to be the one in the relationship to elevate responsibly to get him to open up to the eventually receiving the husband that I got in full.
Absolutely. And just to speak on that, since we're here, I knew him since we were kids, and
And
he was always a straightforward, respectful, kind of a matter of fact, very simple and to the point person. There was never
there he,
any angles with him. There was there,
that's it.
I know people, I do people. This is what I do. I study people. He didn't have any
Hmm.
angles. He was genuine in exactly what he was. So,
That is it.
yeah, so for sure.
Thank you, big bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark, you can take me off. I appreciate it, King. And whenever you have an opening for Sunday 1 to 3, let's get at it again. I would have loved to have been on that panel physically with you today.
Oh yeah. Oh, so yeah, for sure. I'm trying to get in the rhythm of getting my guest list together. You know.
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah, me
extended
too.
me the gratuity for your show, so absolutely, you already know.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of lining some people up, some of the best people in their expert fields, you know, and
Mhm.
so I'm working on it. I'm gonna get it together.
I am too. All right. I appreciate you, Kings. And Mark, I will
All
see
right.
you
See
Sunday.
you
Great
Sunday,
show,
Keisha.
big bro.
Absolutely,
See
and
ya.
thank you guys for joining us. And we're gonna go ahead and log off.
All right. We out of here.